Aries, let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt the weight finally lifting? Not because things got easier, but because you changed. Right now, there's a quiet force moving in your life. It doesn't shout, it pulls you out of survival mode, out of counting every dollar, out of constantly bracing for the next hit. This isn't luck, this is timing, meeting a decision. You've been standing at a threshold, and one choice, just one, is enough to change everything about how your life unfolds from here. If this already feels personal, type, "I trust myself" in the comments. Because, Aries, what comes next isn't small, and it's already moving toward you. Now, listen closely. This is where the real story begins. Aries, stay with me here, because what you are feeling right now isn't random and it isn't temporary. There's a quiet shift happening beneath the surface of your life. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep. The kind of shift that doesn't announce itself. It simply changes the ground you're standing on. For a long time, you've been living in survival mode, maybe not in a way others could see, but inside, you knew. Every decision felt heavy. Every dollar had a job before it even arrived. You learned how to stretch, how to endure, how to keep going even when the numbers didn't add up, and the energy felt thin. And you did that without complaining, without asking for pity. You carried it quietly, but something has ended. You may not have marked the date. You may not even have words for it yet. Still, you can feel it. That constant pressure in your chest. That sense of bracing for the next problem. It's loosening. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because you are no longer the same person who entered that season. You learned restraint. You learned patience. You learned the cost of impulsive choices. And slowly, almost without noticing, you stopped chasing short-term relief and started thinking about permanence. That's why money feels different to you now. You're not reckless with it anymore. You don't spend to escape feelings. You don't make moves just to feel powerful for a moment. You're thinking in terms of structure, longevity, foundation. That's not fear talking. That's wisdom settling in. And here's the part I want you to really hear. This phase isn't ending because you got lucky. It's ending because the version of you that needed to struggle no longer exists. The universe doesn't pull people out of cycles until they've extracted the lesson. And you did. Every late night, every moment of doubt, every time you kept going anyway. That effort didn't disappear. It compounded. You might still feel cautious. You might still hesitate before saying yes to yourself. That's normal. Survival leaves echoes. But look at how your focus has changed. Look at how you're choosing differently now. You're no longer just trying to get through today. You're quietly preparing for a future that actually feels worth building. That's why things are rearranging behind the scenes. That's why certain pressures are lifting, while new possibilities start circling closer. Not rushing you, waiting for alignment. And maybe you don't fully trust it yet. That's okay. Trust doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives in layers. What matters is this. You are no longer stuck in the chapter where everything costs you more than it gives back. You're stepping into a chapter where your discipline finally starts working for you. Take a breath here. Let that sink in. Because what's coming next isn't about struggle at all. It's about choice. A quiet moment where you realize you don't have to repeat the old pattern anymore. And when that realization lands, the story doesn't just continue, it deepens. Aries, let me stay right here with you for a moment. Because after everything you've carried, something subtle but powerful has begun to take shape. You may not have announced it to anyone. You may not even talk about it out loud. But inside, you've started to feel a quiet firmness settling in. Like an inner line being drawn. Not in anger, not in fear, but in self-respect. You're not letting just anything touch your life anymore. There was a time when you said yes too quickly, to conversations that drained you, to expectations that weren't yours, to spending energy, money, and attention in places that never gave back. You didn't do that because you were weak. You did it because you were hopeful, because you believed effort alone could fix everything. But hope without boundaries costs too much. Now, something has shifted. You pause before you respond. You feel into a situation before you step forward. You ask yourself quietly, does this nourish me or does it scatter me? That question has changed everything. You're not shutting people out. You're letting yourself in, and that distinction matters more than you realize. Your energy feels different now, more contained, more intentional, like a flame that no longer burns wildly in every direction, but holds steady and strong at its center. That kind of fire doesn't destroy, it builds. You're beginning to understand that real abundance doesn't start with money, it starts with protection. Protection of your time, protection of your focus, protection of your emotional space. You don't owe everyone access to you. You don't owe every situation a reaction. And you certainly don't owe your future to habits that were formed in survival. There's a quiet courage in the way you're choosing now. The courage to say no without explaining. The courage to step back without guilt. The courage to let certain patterns fall away, even if they once felt familiar. And yes, some people may feel the distance. Some situations may dissolve without closure. That's not loss, that's alignment. Because while you're doing this, even if it doesn't look dramatic from the outside, something extraordinary is happening underneath. You're building a structure that can actually hold what's coming next. Think of it like this. You're not closing doors. You're reinforcing the walls of a home that hasn't been fully lived in yet. Every boundary you set is a brick. Every conscious choice is another layer of stability. And the more solid that structure becomes, the more life responds to it. Opportunities begin to approach differently. Money behaves differently around you. Even the way people engage with you starts to shift, because they sense the clarity you now carry. This isn't about being hard, it's about being clear, and clarity is magnetic. There's a reason things feel quieter lately. It's not emptiness, it's space being created. Space for better decisions, space for cleaner connections, space for a future that isn't built on exhaustion. So if you feel yourself pulling back just a little more than usual, trust that instinct. You're not withdrawing from life. You're preparing the ground for something more stable to land. And as that ground settles, as the noise fades and the edges become defined, you may start to notice something else rising, a deeper awareness, a readiness. Because once your energy is protected, once your foundation is steady, the next movement doesn't ask for force, it asks for vision. And that vision is already beginning to form. Aries. If it feels like you've gone quieter lately, like you've stepped back from the noise without explaining yourself, I want you to hear this clearly. You didn't disappear. You repositioned. This isn't low energy. This is gathering energy. There's a difference. You've spent so much of your life moving fast, deciding quickly, acting on instinct, trusting momentum to carry you through whatever came next. And most of the time, it did. But right now, your spirit is asking for something else, not retreat, preparation. You're not pulling away because you're tired of people. You're pulling away because you're listening more closely to your breath, to your inner timing, to the subtle signals you used to ignore when everything felt urgent. Inside, there's a quiet sorting happening. Thoughts that once raced now slow down enough to be examined. Old decisions come back into view, not to shame you, but to teach you. You replay moments and ask yourself questions you were too busy to ask before. What was I really chasing back then? What was I trying to prove? What would happen if I chose differently now? These aren't doubts, they're recalibrations. For someone like you, Aries, pausing can feel unnatural, almost uncomfortable, like holding a bowstring without releasing the arrow. But this pause is not weakness, it's precision. You're learning how to aim. In this quieter space, you're starting to see patterns you couldn't see while running, where your energy leaked, where effort went unnoticed, where speed replaced direction. And instead of judging yourself for it, something softer happens. Compassion, understanding, a sense that you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. That understanding is opening something powerful. Because when you allow yourself to see clearly without rushing to fix or escape, the world responds, not immediately, but meaningfully. It's subtle at first. An idea that lingers instead of disappearing, a thought that feels heavier, richer, more real than the others, a feeling that something important is forming just beyond the edge of certainty. That's the door. Not a loud one, not a dramatic one, but a door that opens when you finally stop pushing and start perceiving. You didn't slow down to lose momentum, you slowed down to change trajectory, and there's a quiet strength in that. You're no longer reacting to life. You're beginning to sense where it's inviting you next. Even if you can't articulate it yet, your body knows, your intuition knows, your timing knows. This is why rest feels different now. It's not empty, it's charged. You may notice fewer words coming out of you, but more truth settling in. You may share less, but understand more, and that understanding is doing something important behind the scenes. It's aligning you with a version of yourself who doesn't need to rush to prove worth, who doesn't need chaos to feel alive, who can move fast when needed, but chooses stillness when clarity matters more. This is the kind of preparation no one applauds. No one sees it happening, but it's the reason some people rise while others repeat the same chapter over and over. Stay here for a moment, in this calm, in this awareness, because as you sit with what you're seeing now, something begins to shift again. Not outwardly yet, but inwardly. A readiness forms, a quiet yes, a sense that when the moment arrives, you won't hesitate, and that moment is closer than you think. Aries. There's something important I want you to notice right now. The air around your life feels different, not louder, not heavier, but sharper, clearer. What's approaching you doesn't crawl, it doesn't hesitate, it doesn't ask twice. It moves the way lightning does, sudden, precise, unmistakable. You may have spent years believing that real change takes time, that stability comes slowly, that money grows only after long seasons of waiting and sacrifice. And sometimes that's true. But there are moments in life when momentum shifts all at once, when everything you've been quietly preparing for converges into a single opening. This is one of those moments. What's coming isn't confusing. It's not wrapped in mixed signals. It doesn't arrive half-formed or uncertain. When you see it, you'll recognize it immediately, because it will feel solid, grounded, like something that can actually hold your future. This is the kind of opportunity that changes how you earn, how you think about money, how secure you allow yourself to feel. Not temporary relief, not another short burst of hope, but a structure you can build on. And here's the part that might surprise you. You don't have to chase this. You don't have to force it. You don't have to prove anything to make it happen. It finds you while you're focused, while you're disciplined, while your attention is no longer scattered across distractions that used to drain you. You've been showing up differently lately, more consistent, more intentional, less reactive. That matters, because the universe responds to clarity faster than it responds to desperation. What you've been doing, even on days when it felt boring or slow, has been sending a clear signal. You're ready for something real, something sustainable, something that doesn't collapse under pressure. That's why this arrives clean. No drama, no guessing games. It feels like an invitation rather than a gamble. You may feel a moment of disbelief when it shows up. A quiet voice asking, "Is this really for me? Is this happening now?" Yes, and yes. This is what happens when preparation meets timing. The work you've done in silence is now creating movement around you. People notice. Opportunities align. Doors open without you having to knock repeatedly. And still, there's a pause. Not from the universe, from you. A breath. A moment where you realize this isn't just another option. It's a pivot point. Because once you step into this, things won't stay the same. Your routine shifts. Your priorities adjust. Your sense of what's possible expands. That can feel exhilarating and a little terrifying. That's normal. Big doors don't open quietly, they change the room. So, if you feel your heart beat a little faster, when you imagine saying yes to something new, that doesn't mean you're not ready. It means you understand the weight of what's being offered. You've earned that awareness. This opportunity isn't asking you to abandon who you are. It's asking you to trust the version of yourself you've become. The one who no longer confuses speed with direction. The one who knows when to move and when to hold steady. The one who can recognize a real foundation when it appears. Let yourself feel into that for a moment, because as soon as you do, another layer begins to reveal itself. Not about what's coming, but about what it will require from you. And that's where the next shift quietly begins. Aries. There's something tender we need to talk about now. Something you don't always admit out loud. At night, when everything finally goes quiet, when there's no one asking anything from you, that's when it shows up. The weight. Not fear exactly. More like the pressure of knowing that what you choose next matters. That one decision could ripple out far beyond you. You're not just thinking about yourself anymore. You're thinking about the people who lean on you, the ones who trust you to stay steady, the ones who believe you'll figure it out, even when you're still figuring it out yourself. That's why your mind doesn't always rest. It replays scenarios, runs the numbers again, asks the same question from different angles. What if I choose wrong? What if I move too fast? What if I wait too long? This isn't weakness, Aries. This is responsibility trying to protect what you love. You carry more than people realize. Not just goals, but expectations. Not just ambition, but duty. You've been the strong one for so long that being careful feels safer than being bold. And sometimes that carefulness looks like hesitation. From the outside, someone might call it procrastination. But you know the truth. You pause because you understand consequences. Because you've seen what happens when choices are made without foresight. Because you refuse to gamble with lives that aren't just yours. That kind of awareness is honorable. But here's the quiet truth. The one that stirs discomfort when you hear it. There comes a moment when protection turns into delay, when caution stops serving you and starts holding you back. And that moment has a feeling. It feels like standing at the edge of something real, feeling the ground solid beneath your feet, yet still gripping the past just in case. You tell yourself you're waiting for the perfect time, for more certainty, for a clearer sign. But deep down, you already know. You feel the pull. The anxiety isn't coming from not knowing what to do. It's coming from knowing that once you do it, there's no going back, because choosing differently changes your identity. It reshapes how people see you. It asks you to step into a version of yourself that no longer hides behind readiness. And that's heavy. So you sit with it. You think, you plan, you revisit the same decision from every possible angle. But while you're doing that, something else is happening quietly in the background. Momentum doesn't wait forever. Opportunities are patient, but not passive. They respond to movement, even small ones. And the longer you hold the door half open, the harder it becomes to hear the invitation. I want you to hear this gently. You don't have to be fearless to move forward. You just have to be honest. Honest about what you've outgrown. Honest about what you can no longer afford to carry. Honest about the fact that staying where you are feels safer only because it's familiar. You're not being asked to abandon your responsibility. You're being asked to trust that growth can support it. The version of you who hesitated did so to survive. The version of you now is learning how to lead. There's a difference. And as you sit with that distinction, as the weight begins to shift from your shoulders to your spine, something inside you starts to straighten. Not urgency, resolve. A calm readiness that doesn't need approval. A knowing that says, I can hold what comes next. Stay with that feeling for a moment. Because when responsibility transforms into clarity, the decision stops feeling like a risk and starts feeling like a return to yourself. And once that happens, the next movement doesn't arrive as pressure. It arrives as permission. Aries. This is where everything gently turns, not with noise, not with force, but with a shift so small on the surface, yet so powerful underneath, that it changes the direction of your entire life. There is one place inside you that has been holding tension for a long time. A single belief. A single angle you have been standing on because it once kept you safe. It made sense back then. It protected you when resources were thin, when trust was fragile, when every mistake felt expensive. But that belief has done its job. And now, it is asking to be released. You do not need to tear everything down. You do not need to erase your past or rewrite your story. You are not being asked to become someone else. You are being asked to look again, with softer eyes, with wiser timing, with the understanding that who you are now can carry more than you once could. The moment this shift begins is subtle. It happens when fear loosens its grip just enough for curiosity to step in. When you stop asking what could go wrong and begin asking what might finally go right. That question alone changes the room. Because when you stop gripping the old path out of habit, the future moves closer on its own. You may notice it first in your body. A deeper breath, a lighter chest, a sense that the weight you were carrying does not belong to you anymore. That is clarity arriving, not certainty. Clarity. Certainty demands guarantees. Clarity simply asks for honesty. And honesty says this: the road you have been loyal to has taught you everything it can. Staying there longer will not make it safer. It will only make it smaller. You are not afraid of change. You are afraid of choosing yourself fully, because choosing yourself means letting go of the version of you who survived by holding back. It means trusting the version of you who knows how to move with intention. That trust is the decision. It is not dramatic. It does not require an announcement. It happens quietly inside a single moment where you decide to respond differently. You pause, you breathe, You choose not to default to the old pattern, and suddenly life responds faster. Doors open with less resistance, conversations feel cleaner, momentum begins to build without the usual struggle. This is not coincidence, this is alignment. You are not forcing the future anymore, you are meeting it halfway. And something important happens when you do that. You realize that power does not come from controlling every outcome. It comes from trusting your ability to navigate whatever unfolds. That realization frees you, because now you are no longer asking permission to grow. You are giving yourself consent, and once that consent is given, things accelerate, not chaotically, but deliberately. You start to sense that life is moving toward you rather than away from you, that what once felt delayed was actually waiting for you to be ready. This is the pivot point, not because everything changes instantly, but because everything starts responding differently. You feel it as a quiet confidence, a grounded knowing, a sense that you do not have to rush or prove anything anymore. Stay here with that feeling, because once perspective shifts, once fear releases its hold, the next phase does not arrive as a question. It arrives as movement, and that movement carries you forward into something new, something stronger, something built to last. Let it come. Aries. Something beautiful begins to happen when you stop forcing life and start standing firmly inside yourself. It's subtle at first, almost quiet, but you feel it. You wake up, and there's a steadiness in your chest that wasn't there before. Not excitement, not adrenaline, something deeper, grounded. This shift you've made doesn't stay contained in one area of your life. It moves outward, like ripples in water. Money responds first, not because you're chasing it, but because your relationship with yourself has changed. You're no longer negotiating your worth. You're no longer accepting less just to feel secure for a moment. You make choices from a place of alignment now, and alignment has weight. You start to notice that opportunities arrive differently, cleaner, more respectful. They don't ask you to shrink or rush. They meet you where you stand. And as that happens, your confidence shifts too. Not the loud kind, not the performative kind. This is quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be announced, the kind people feel when you walk into a room. You trust your judgment more. You second-guess yourself less. And when you do pause, it's not doubt, it's discernment. That changes how people interact with you. Conversations deepen, surface-level connections fade, and suddenly, the people around you feel different. More aligned, more intentional, more real. You may find yourself attracting someone who meets you at eye level, not someone to fix, not someone to convince, but someone who recognizes your strength without being threatened by it. Or maybe it's not romance at all. Maybe it's a partnership, a collaboration, an invitation to work alongside people who respect your mind, your experience, your vision. Whatever form it takes, it feels mutual. And that's new, because you're no longer standing outside the door hoping to be chosen. You're inside the room, at the table, because you belong there. Leadership begins to show up naturally in this phase, not because you're trying to lead, but because others sense your clarity. They notice how you move, how you decide, how you don't panic when things shift. That kind of presence creates trust, and trust opens doors that effort alone never could. You might not even realize how much you've stepped into your power. It happens gradually, in the way people listen when you speak, in the way your time is valued, in the way your boundaries are respected without explanation. This is what alignment looks like in real life. Money, connection, and position rising together. Not because you chase them, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. Take a moment here. Let yourself feel the difference. This is not ego. This is embodiment. You're no longer surviving. You're participating. And participation invites reciprocity. Life begins to meet you halfway. People meet you halfway. Opportunities meet you halfway. You're not asking anymore. You're responding. And as this new level settles in, something else becomes clear. This isn't the peak. It's the platform. Everything you're stepping into now is preparing you for something even more lasting. Something that extends beyond immediate wins, beyond recognition, beyond personal success. There's a longer horizon beginning to reveal itself. One that asks a different question. Not how far can I go, but what can I build that lasts? Stay with that feeling, because as your world expands outward, your vision is about to expand forward, and the story doesn't slow down from here, it deepens. Aries. There's a quiet realization settling in now, not the kind that rushes your heartbeat, but the kind that steadies it. What's unfolding in your life isn't about a quick win. It's not a temporary lift. It's not money that comes and goes. This is foundation. You're beginning to think differently about what success actually means. Not just how much comes in, but what stays, what grows, what carries forward even when you stop pushing. You've lived long enough to know that fast money without structure creates anxiety, that sudden gains without purpose feel empty, and that real security is built quietly over time by choices that honor tomorrow as much as today. That understanding didn't come easily. It came from seasons where you had to be resourceful, from moments when you learned how to stretch what little you had, from nights where you promised yourself that if things ever changed, you would do it differently. Now you are. You're no longer thinking in terms of escape. You're thinking in terms of continuity, of stability that doesn't collapse when life tests it, of resources that serve not just your comfort, but your peace of mind. There's a shift from accumulation to intention, from wanting more to building wisely, from surviving alone to creating something that can support others too. Family comes into your thoughts more often now. Not just the people you love, but the future versions of them, the ones who will benefit from the decisions you're making today without ever knowing the weight you carried to make them. That's legacy energy. It doesn't need applause, it doesn't need validation. It feels right because it aligns with who you've become. You may notice yourself caring less about appearances, about proving anything, about chasing symbols of success that never truly satisfied you. Instead, you're drawn to what lasts, assets, systems, choices that compound quietly over time. And there's a calm pride in that. Not arrogance, not ego. Responsibility mixed with vision. One day, not soon, but someday, you'll look back on this stretch of time. You'll remember the moment you paused, the moment you chose differently, the moment you trusted yourself enough to step onto a path that wasn't crowded, but was solid. And you'll realize that everything meaningful in your life traces back to that choice. You didn't rush, you didn't panic, you didn't betray your instincts, you honored them. That's why what you're building now feels clean, why it doesn't come with regret attached, why it feels like expansion instead of pressure. Your life is not just changing direction, it's changing depth. What comes next will ask for patience, for consistency, for continued clarity. But you have those now. You earned them. And as this chapter settles into place, something beautiful happens. The urgency fades, the fear quiets, and a deep sense of worth fills the space where doubt used to live. You understand now that true wealth isn't just about what you accumulate, it's about what you protect, what you pass on, what continues to give long after the effort is done. This is the moment your story stops being about getting out and starts being about building forward. Your life is turning the page, decisively, cleanly, with intention. And when the next chapter opens, it won't ask who you were. It will respond to who you chose to become. Aries. Before you go, let me leave you with this. If this message reached you tonight, it's not because you were searching. It's because something in you is already ready. Ready to stop surviving. Ready to stop proving. Ready to stop carrying the weight alone. What you're stepping into now isn't just a better season. It's a truer one. And here's the part most people never hear. The moment you decide to trust yourself, the universe stops testing you and starts working with you. You don't need to have every answer yet. You don't need to see the entire road. All you need is the courage to take the next honest step without shrinking back into who you used to be. If this spoke to your heart, type, "I trust myself" in the comments. Not for me, for you. So, you remember this moment when doubt tries to creep back in. And if you're walking this journey as an Aries, know this. You are not alone here. This is a community built on growth, truth, and quiet strength. So take a second to subscribe and stay with us, because these messages aren't random and the next one is already forming. Your story isn't ending, it's unfolding. The next chapter is closer than you think, and when it arrives, you'll recognize it because you've already become the person it was meant for. Take a breath, trust yourself, and I'll see you in the next message.